I'm Mike.
And I'm Adam.
And this is Stuff and Waffle. Two friends talking about stuff, and often as not, waffling with frequent reference to Bond cars. Now, we like a bit of sci-fi, don't we?
We do.
We're all over the sci-fi.
We are, but with possible exception.
Mm.
You really aren't a fan of Star Wars, and I'm middle of the road.
I'm not. I know it's unusual, perhaps. I just don't get it. I just don't. I've tried to like it. I've tried to get interested in it. I just don't care. I'm just not interested. I just don't get it. I don't understand. And I am nervous of people that are a bit too much into it. I know that's perhaps a bit hypocritical coming from someone who's as into James Bond as I am, and has a frightening level of knowledge. But frightening to me as much as anybody else.
Yes, yes.
But I'm afraid Star Wars I just don't get. I'm a big fan of sci-fi, but I just don't get Star Wars. I just can't get into it. I just think it's a bit silly.
Fine, it's fine. I'm not going to kick off about it. I can take it or leave it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people like that, but there's this thing that you get it with football as well. That well, how can you not like it? Well, I just don't.
Yes,
sorry.
Sorry,
not sorry. Just no.
No arguments on the football front. You're fine.
No, I'm in safe company on that.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
No sports ball.
No, none of that.
None of that. No,
all very silly.
Yes.
However, there's a particular aspect of science fiction that I think needs covering on this podcast, and that is your science fiction vehicle, not necessarily car, but a vehicle, a spacecraft, a method of conveyance of some description.
Okay. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I think you and I. That's fair enough as a topic,
yes.
Isn't it?
I think it's close enough, and since it's our podcast, we make the rules.
Yeah. If you don't like it, bugger off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Go and listen to something else. Yes. So I don't subscribe. So I think I think I've got a few favorites from over the years there that particularly resonate with me. Mine are mainly spacecraft, but not exclusively.
Okay. Well, I've got some to back with.
Yeah.
But possibly the same ones. We'll find out. But
we will, won't we? We will.
Do you want to lead the way?
I'll start off with one, and this is a very British one.
Okay.
And it's from, I believe, the 1970s. It's from the 1970s Jerry Anderson TV series Space 1999. And of course, it is the ever-present Eagle.
Very good.
Yes.
Yeah, I can
crash at least 3 in every episode, so they must have got hundreds of them. I often like the idea that the moon is actually hollow and it's just full racks and racks of Eagles because they're blowing them up left, right, and centre.
That's the only logical place to store them, really, isn't it?
Either that or they have a huge stockpile of parts.
Oh dear, yeah, I know. It's been a while since I've watched any, but yes,
every episode they bungalow at least 5 in every episode.
I mean, yes, it's a good choice. It's
quite an interesting craft because it's quite flexible. They do quite a lot with it. There's different because it's got like a center section that's interchangeable that they can. And it can be a transport module or a scientific research module, or it can have no central module and they use it for lifting cargo and things like that. It's a very flexible vehicle, but it's basically just a sort of central framework, if you like, that seems to be made out of old scaffolding poles. And then you've got engines at the back, some sort of clever fusion drive, and then the cockpit module at the front. And I think it's actually quite a good. It's quite a realistic design.
Oh yeah, it's quite a clever idea, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah,
all done with models, of course, in those days. No CGI. and you can now get a kit. In fact, I'm quite tempted to do this. You can
Oh,
now
it's
get
eagle moss, isn't it?
no, it's not.
Oh, is it not? I
No,
thought that.
it's MPC. It's a proper plastic kit.
Oh dear.
And it's 1/48 scale. It's quite big.
Oh, you're gonna need a shelf for that. Christ.
It's bigger than the DeLorean. It's quite that I've built. It's quite a big sort of half a meter long. It's quite a hefty thing. But what they've done, it's not a model of the vehicle as it appeared on screen. It's a reproduction of the studio model,
Okay.
which
That's
is
a
quite
nice.
subtly different. Yeah.
That's a nice way of doing it.
And it's got all the little greeblies on it. And if you don't know what a greebly is, it's a sort of professional model makers term, prop makers term, where you use something from something else and you sort of stick it on and it's there. So like they do a lot of kit bashing, which is where you take another kit but use bits from it on your thing that you're building.
Okay.
And there's all kinds of stuff on the Eagle. Like there's some bits of World War II Tiger tanks because they've used a kit of that, and there's some bits of Willys Jeeps because they've used a kit of that, and there's all sorts of other stuff on it. There's some little miniature. If you look very carefully, there's some little miniature lunar landers from another kit. The two pilots that are in the cockpit are actually from a Gemini model.
Right. Okay.
That's a Gemini model. It's covered in little greeblies which are from other kits, which is kind of
Oh, you
cool.
gotta like that.
That's a well-known prop maker's technique. Taking
Well,
greeblies by kit bashing.
well, I suppose that's it. Is if you can use something that already exists, it's going to save you time in the long run, isn't it?
Loads of that was done in Star Wars. Loads of it was done in Close Encounters, for example. In fact, here's a lovely little bit of trivia for you. You'll like this. The closing scenes of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where the alien spacecraft is going up into the sky very slowly and the end credits are rolling over it. There's some close-ups of it as it sort of floats by, and there's a couple of shots where you can see part of the craft in silhouette. And if you look very carefully, standing on top of the ship is a little R2-D2.
Oh, really?
Yes. In Close Encounters. Because they'd nicked one from another model kit and just, that looks cool, stick it on.
Stick it on there. Oh,
yeah.
I'm going to have a look at that.
You should check it out. It's there. So that's a well-known technique, and the Eagle was covered in little bits like that. I mean, spacecraft aren't really like that, but when they're making one for a sci-fi film, it has to be covered in little bumps and pipes and little bits and pieces to make interesting shapes and cast shadows and all that kind of stuff. So.
That's the thing, isn't it? If you think back to that sort of era, like you say, that's not what a spacecraft looks like, but that's what you think one should look like.
Exactly. So much so that I suspect, there's probably an element of that working the other way around, and that spacecraft designers probably now feel the need to stick some pipes and bulges and boxes and things on it because that's what it's got to look like.
That's what's in the comic books. So, yep.
That's just what they look like. It's got to be like that, of course. But yes, the Eagle, the indestructible Eagle from Space 1999 would be my favorite.
It can't hurt as well because it's one of those programs we grow up with as well.
We certainly did, yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those programs that is so awful that it actually sort of comes around the other way and has become good again.
Oh yeah,
it's
I know exactly what you mean.
It's a strange program.
To be honest, I don't see our kids watching it.
No, not at all. No, it's very much of its time.
Yes.
It got progressively sillier as the season. So it only made 2 seasons, but as the episodes went on, it got more and more ridiculous. But the equipment generally and the base itself is quite memorable. But the Eagle, particularly, I liked because it is quite a good design.
Yeah,
it makes sense. It's versatile. It's practical. If it wasn't for the fact that they crash at least 6 of them in every episode, you'd be fine. Well, they do.
They
They're forever
do.
destroying them.
Oh, must have pissed the model makers off to no end.
Oh yeah. Oh, we're crashing another one this week. Oh yeah. Oh good. I only spent 3 weeks making this one.
Bollocks.
Yeah.
All right, it's it kept him in work. We'll go with
Well,
that.
there we go. There we go. I think there is some pictures in the box for the this model, the studio model that they've done. I think there's a signed photograph of the guy who designed the original and things like that. There's some stuff, some original memorabilia and things that you get with it, which is kind of cool. But yes, I would say the Eagle would be first on my list.
It's a very, very good choice. Well,
Where are we going next?
I'll follow that up with another space vehicle, another big one.
Oh yeah.
Well, even bigger than that, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, that's quite small actually. The Eagle is not a large craft.
No, this is true. It's not enormous.
No.
But the next one is quite vast. The Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, see, I knew you'd do something like that. Yeah.
But being the age I am, I'll be the one from the remake. The I think it was BS-75 was its designation. Well, and you think, well, the remake, we were obviously in very safe hands because of the writer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because of Star Wars, not Star Wars. No, we've been through that. Star Trek, Next Generation fame. Ronald Moore.
Oh, okay, very good. Yes. There we go. Yeah, you are in safe hands with him. Yes.
Yes. And it was an exceptional series, but it's one of those spacecraft that really sticks in the mind.
Yeah, I mean, it was enormous, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was quite interesting in the sense of the constant battle against Cylons meant that their computer systems on board were actually quite primitive because they couldn't have networked computers because they could be infiltrated.
See.
It was all very clever, being very primitive, fighting these machines that could do anything and go anywhere.
Yes, I can see that would be a problem.
Yeah, a bit of a bugger that.
Yes. Are you going to defend against that then? Yes.
It's not great, and they can look like humans at the drop of a hat, so that's ideal.
Oh, it's a bit of a shame as well.
Bit of a bugger, yeah. But no, an impressive ship considering they had quite a lot of them in the fleet, and it was basically that was how the human race survived in these battle stars. They've all got reasonable amounts of armor, but not colossal amounts. And you think you've got your government floating in space with all its citizens around it. It's yes, it's an impressive bit of kit,
and quite well thought out again, wasn't it?
The story behind it was excellent. It's one of those things. It's a must watch. Yeah, they did that 2-part miniseries to sort of lead everyone in, and it was everyone got hooked, blew everyone's mind when that aired.
Yeah, no, that was quite special. We do have a copy of that somewhere. I must refresh myself. Yes, a good choice. A good.
Yeah, so I thought you'd approve of that, and we come back to what's it, Ronald Moore, and you think he was just excellent.
Well, his attention to detail was amazing, and he was very keen on kind of thinking things through, wasn't he, and planning them out, so that even though there was going to be loads of bits of it that you'd never see on screen, he wanted to sort of draw it out and plan it out so that he knew the thing was realistic. It was, you're not going to suddenly have a room that couldn't possibly exist. He wanted to draw it all out and make sure that it was all realistic.
Yeah.
Like they can't suddenly go off into a new bit of it that's never been mentioned before and can't actually be where they put it and things like that. Yes.
No, it's well thought out, and he's the same with his storytelling as well. Because you think with particularly with Battlestar Galactica, that he thought of the entire way that the whole politics worked as well, with how a government could be formed in this situation. And I think
how could it actually work?
This is some thought gone into that.
No, I like that. I like the thinking it through, even though you're going way beyond what's actually required for the story. And you could have just produced something that the filmmakers would have been probably perfectly happy with. But you've thought it through so that it does actually work. And certainly that was the case in Star Trek, where, especially for something that's that long running, chances are they're going to want to do all sorts of things with it. So if you thought all that through up front, you know what to do with it.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. And I think ultimately that's kind of what he did. He kind of cut his teeth on that, and then was allowed a bit more reign on Battlestar.
Yeah.
So yes,
good choice.
Yes,
good choice.
Makes me want to go back and watch it. So
yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah,
might have a little run through of that.
That might have to go in soon. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that is a very good choice. Well, whilst we're on Ronald D. Moore, then perhaps we should move on to what I suspect is probably our elephant in the room, and the USS Enterprise D.
Ah, yes. I see. I assumed you would.
Yes.
So I didn't.
Chances were quite high.
Yeah, I thought I'll put it as an honorary mention on the list just in case.
In case for some bizarre reason I don't mention it.
Yeah. So that we're just to clarify, we're going for NCC 1701D.
We are Picard's Enterprise from The Next Generation. Yes.
The correct choice.
The correct choice. The best of all the Enterprises. Certainly the best thought out, as we've just said. Planned out in massive detail. In fact, the plans are online now. You can get them. Every single room was designed. Every deck, absolutely everything was planned out and drawn so that it was realistic and worked. And whenever they needed something for the series, he knew where it would be and what it would look like and the size it had to be and how they got to it. And it was all planned out. Very, very carefully, to the point where you could build an Enterprise D from the drawings.
Yes,
beautifully done.
Yeah, it was. We all think back to the first episode, was it Encounter at Farpoint?
Yes,
and the introduction of it, just glorious, and that was. Oh God, it's been a while since I watched the first one. It was a 2-part episode, wasn't it?
It was a 2-part episode, although on the DVDs there is an option to watch it as 1 part.
Right.
But yeah, it was, and it was a nice evolution, I thought, of Kirk's Enterprise from the original series. You could see the family resemblance. You could see how one had become the other.
That's right.
But then being able to separate the saucer section in that first episode.
That was the thing as well, because we not only do we get shown this new ship, we get shown quite the new feature there.
Yeah, new things it can do. Yes, and the battle bridge and all that stuff. Yeah, and how it can be flown independently of the drive section. And yeah, that was beautifully done. The new warp drive and the whole new engineering section. The living quarters, 10 forward, the bar, and they say part Starship, part Marriott Convention Center.
Yep, that's it. And then we can have
a lot of concerts.
Lot going on there. We can have we've got quite a lot of delightful holodecks going to the cheesiest destinations known to man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Dixon Hill. Yes. Oh yeah, a lot of that. Huge hangar decks. Yeah, it was a very attractive craft actually as well.
Quite a sleek thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, really good. A lovely evolution of what had gone before. And I thought that was a beautiful piece of design.
Yes, it was.
Really like that.
You've chosen well. I expect you do too, but
It was an obvious choice, but it needed covering.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's the only correct choice because, well, it is the best Enterprise.
Well, we had an Enterprise E, didn't we?
We did.
Did we have another one after that? I forget.
I honestly don't know, to be honest.
Because the Enterprise D was destroyed in the first film, wasn't it? In Generations, they crash it on the planet.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, they crash the saucer section.
Yeah, but that's basically buggered at that point.
That is most of it. Yeah, absolutely. And then they get another one. So I'm sure there's an Enterprise E in the next film.
Yes, E. Yeah, I'm certain about the E one.
And is that the one they have all the way through then until Nemesis? And it gets destroyed in Nemesis, doesn't it? Although we do see it being repaired right at the end.
Oh yes, yeah, you are correct.
He rams what's his name's ship with it, doesn't he? Near the end.
Yes.
And the saucer section gets embedded in the front of the other ship.
That's it.
Having given the crew about 20 seconds to evacuate, which I thought was a little unfair.
I know what you mean. Oh dear. No, I know what you
yes. But yes. No, the Enterprise D came to a sticky end, but it was the best of those ships, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. No. Excellent choice. No, very good. Very good. Right. Next one on my list is from a film that has been, well, colossally snubbed, basically.
Okay.
It got torn apart by critics, as I recall at the time. And the film is named after the ship in question. That's Event Horizon.
Oh. Well, now there you see what you've done there is come up with a real thing. We watch that film quite regularly. It's one of Dawn's all-time favorite movies.
Very good film.
Very good film. It, however, is not an entirely original design.
And you see, I have heard this.
It does borrow a bit from another rather well-known science fiction film.
What are you trying to say?
Well, just what I've noticed. Not only does it borrow the design of the ship, it borrows a little bit of the story as well. A ship lost for a long time, then rediscovered and revisited, and weird things start happening. That has been done before.
Yes, it has. But I don't know. I still find it very compelling viewing.
Oh, it is. It's great,
and I still got a lot of time for the ship and the whole concept of folding space.
Yes, or indeed folding some pictures from a Playboy magazine. Yeah.
Oh yes, because he got upset because he popped a pencil through some bangers, didn't he?
Yes. Not Vanessa. Yes, indeed, a wonderful moment. However, it's the ship itself, which obviously has become this weird entity. It's not the most attractive vehicle we've ever seen.
No, it doesn't have aesthetics on its side. It's capabilities rather than what it looks like.
Yes, indeed. But as I say, it's not an entirely original design. But I'm hesitating to say where I think it's been pinched from, because that takes us on to the next one in my list.
Oh, well, maybe that's a lovely little segue then.
I might be. I think it borrows quite heavily from the Discovery in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because that has a large command module at the front, a spine all the way down the center, and then the drive engines at the back. And
yes.
And of course, the sequel to 2001, 2010, which also contains another interesting spacecraft, the Russian spacecraft, the Leonov, the Alexei Leonov, is Again, they are going back to a spacecraft that's been lost for years in deep space, and it's rediscovered, and the weird things happen. So it's not an entirely original design, and it's not an entirely original story, but that does not stop it being a brilliant movie. But
no, this is true, and yes, I tend to agree. I think they have borrowed from that, but but their own theories and plots.
Oh
are,
yeah, yeah, and apparently a lot of it ended up on the editing room floor because a lot of it had to be cut out. A lot of what they'd filmed apparently was just the censor would not let it through.
Oh really?
Apparently so. Yeah.
In what sense?
In a gore sense, they just had gone a bit too far with the sort of eating each other thing and
right. Okay.
all of that. There was a lot that they had filmed, which the censor said, "You, not a chance." There is no certification we're going to put on this that will let you have some of this stuff.
Right. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, when you think back, it was some of the parts in it were. I mean, even the bits they left in were quite graphic.
They were quite graphic, but apparently they did a lot worse. But the censor just would not let them have it.
Yeah, I'm surprised because there's a lot of stuff with eyes in that, isn't there? And
yeah,
people do not like that.
No, it has no. It just takes it to a whole other place, doesn't it? And it's just really freaky. And I mean, we could go through every scene, couldn't we? But it's yeah.
I quite like that. Well, the scientific theories in it are quite wild.
Yeah.
Having read a few books, because I do get off on reading quite a lot of scientific stuff. They're not pure fabrications, which is quite nice. There are
not entirely.
There are theories out there. Yes, they've been done for a bit of Hollywood action, but they're based on solid theories, which I quite liked about that.
Yeah,
that pleased
fair
me
to say. Yeah, that's probably fair to say. The same is true with 2001, of course, because Arthur C. Clarke was a scientist.
Yeah.
And although the film, well, you can argue back and forth whether the film was a success or not. I don't think Stanley Kubrick did the book an enormous amount of justice. Although, of course, that's not quite fair to say because the film came first. The screenplay was written before the novel.
Yes.
Which is unusual.
That isn't. It's the old way
not
around.
as good as the book. Well, actually, the book came from the film, not the other way around.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you can't have that debate.
No, not really.
That's arse about face, that one.
But I do think the spacecraft, if we stay on what we're talking about, the spacecraft, the discovery is extremely well thought out. It's not quite how it appears in the book, but it's more or less. The large command module at the front with its flight deck, and then it has a large rotating centrifuge in the center of it, which gives them gravity or an area of gravity on board. Yeah. And then the large spine down the middle, which was for fuel and cargo storage. And then the nuclear engines at the back, as far away from the command module as you can get them. Antenna module in the center. Pod bays underneath with those sliding doors and large spherical command module. It looks really plausible. And it was very well thought out. And again, Clarke drew up designs for it to make sure that it would all fit and would work, and rooms were in the right places, and it was all feasible. How they would access different parts of the ship was all thought out.
Yes, very nicely done.
Like that, yeah.
Yes, no, I approve of that level of detail, and yeah, that's nice. You get the feeling perhaps the Event Horizon didn't go through that level of.
I don't think it did, and perhaps it didn't need to.
No, it was a film for a different era.
Yes, it was.
But like I said, I do quite like the science involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here's a top tip. If you fancy, I mean, you're going to have to build yourself up for it. It's not just pick up and read whenever you fancy. But if you read Michio Kaku's Hyperspace book, That'll
Oh
tie
yeah.
into this nicely. But yeah, that's
Oh, very good.
yeah. Don't try and read it if you're a bit sleepy. It's
It's
a
not going
bit
to
in
work.
depth. No. But yeah, there are similarities to the theories involved.
Okay, interesting.
There you go.
Interesting.
I didn't expect to be giving out reading tips today.
No, that's unusual, but anything goes here. But yeah, the Discovery is one of my absolute favorites. I really like that, and that's definitely a future model project.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one for the shelf, that isn't it?
that is one from the shelf. Yeah, that's or for the shelf. Yeah, that's the Discovery is very special. I spent quite a long time studying that a while ago, and it's very well thought out.
Well, it's one of those things from our younger days as well, isn't it?
It was
One of
the
those
kind of first
films.
big sci-fi movie that I got into.
Really?
Yeah, and watched over and over again. It's a special film. That it's a special
Yeah.
film. I mean, it was really the first modern sci-fi movie. Sci-fi up to that point was kind of aliens and robots and taking over the world and all that kind of stuff. It was the first, what you would term the first modern science fiction film. In
Yeah,
fact, it was shown, I believe, in the late 60s. It was actually shown at a international conference of scientific government representatives from all over the world. And they had this conference called The Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. And at this conference was a screening of 2001 to say,
that's cool.
look, you don't have to fill space
Mm.
with weapons. It doesn't have to be about fighting each other and all trying to carve out our territory. We can actually all coexist up there, as you see in 2001 at the Hilton space station. There's Russians and Chinese and English and Americans, and they're all there working together. And it is quite a peaceful vision of the future.
Well,
And I think it often doesn't get the credit for that.
you got to think though, because what we're talking 68.
68 it was released, yeah.
You got to think that might have, well, I say might have, was probably definitely on purpose, because we're at the height of the Cold War.
Yeah,
tensions are high.
absolutely.
The space race is in full flow.
Yeah.
Calm everyone right down.
Yes, and I think it is quite a calming film, actually. There's no big movie stars in it. All the dialogue is quite mundane. There's not a lot of music in the film. Obviously, there's the wonderful use of the Blue Danube. It is quite a peaceful film. Nobody's really at war with anybody. There's no violence in it as such. I mean, all right, the astronauts get killed, but not in a violent way. And it is quite a peaceful film. It's quite a positive vision of what the future could have looked like. And all right, we're a bit behind the curve. We didn't have hotels orbiting the Earth and bases on the moon by 2001. We should have, and I think could have, but we didn't. And if you can understand why they would have thought in 1968 that at that level of development, by 2001, of course we'd have had hotels orbiting the Earth, and of course we'd have had people living on the moon.
Yes.
Why wouldn't we? But what they hadn't count off is that shortly after the 60s, the development of all that would stop dead for decades.
That was it. That was after Kennedy made his speech saying we'll put a man on the moon by the end of the decade.
Yeah,
they did, and
they did.
All done.
That was about it. Yeah. Oh, we did that. Well done, lads.
Yeah.
That was it.
Well, and then after that, it was all money, then, wasn't it? Because we had the space shuttle program, low Earth orbit, chuck a load of junk up that's orbiting round.
Yeah, that's quite a lot of it. Quite a lot of it with weapons on, and
whoa, yes, no one said that. No.
We did think no, of course not.
No. At no point on every space shuttle mission was there Department of Defense payload space or anything like that.
No, you can't possibly say that. You have no proof. we obviously then had a lot of robotic missions to the outer planets and things like that. So I mean, it didn't stop dead, but in terms of people orbiting the Earth and pleasure travel to the moon and orbiting hotels and things like that. None of that happened, and still hasn't.
No, and
so, but I think it actually, even if you look at it now, it holds up. It's a very positive view of what the future could have been.
And it's a shame they picked that particular year to hone in on, because it all kicked off.
It did,
not in a happy way.
Not in a happy way. No, it all went a bit wrong, didn't it? But nevertheless, I do think it's quite a positive film. And
its message was excellent, I think.
Yeah, I thought so. And it often gets overlooked these days. I don't think it gets the credit that it deserves. And I think it's not a Star Wars. It's not. I mean, it's more akin to Star Trek, I suppose, than Star Wars. But because I think Star Trek is also trying to be quite positive.
Well, that's it. It was always the good thing about Star Trek is it was always about that solidarity, that positivity, and it was always dialogue heavy for a good reason. Where Star Wars is always a bit pew pew.
That's what doesn't do it for me at all. I just think that's silly, and I'm not going to waste my time on it.
Yeah, it sells toys though.
Yes, granted. Granted, it's made more money than any of the others that we've mentioned. Yes, but from a message point of view, I think it's a lot less positive.
This is true. Yeah, it does send out an incest message for very briefly, doesn't it?
Well, so does Back to the Future, but we won't get into that.
Oh God! Don't touch your mum.
Because technically, does the DeLorean time machine come under the heading of sci-fi vehicles? Because if it does, we might have to spend the rest of this podcast just talking about that.
Oh, good God! There's not enough hard drive space.
No, we'll dedicate an episode just to that.
We could pre-warn everyone. There is a DeLorean special on the way.
There is a DeLorean special coming up very soon. Yes.
Yes. So you will give it all the justice then.
Fans of the DeLorean, fans of Back to the Future, yes, keep an eye out for that one.
Prepare yourself.
So we won't cover that now, even though technically it does fit into this.
Well, of course it does. It is a time machine. Christ,
it's a time machine. We could talk about the other time machines, but since the original H.G. Wells time machine was basically just a chair strapped to a bit of scaffolding, that's possibly
this is true.
Not a lot of scope for that. It did have some casters on it, I believe, so he could drag it a short distance, but it was quite heavy.
I remember it featured in quite an early episode of The Big Bang Theory.
Did it?
And Leonard bid on what he thought was a miniature replica.
I think I've heard about this. Yes,
and it was actually a full-size replica, and there were some crosswords with the neighbour Penny because they'd blocked the stairway trying to get it up to the apartment, and she described it as something that looked like what Elton John would drive through the Everglades. I always liked that enormously.
Oh, it's another film ruined.
I just thought that was such a brilliant line. Excellent writing. Really good.
Oh, that's going to come up again. Oh, dear. That's genius. Yes, yeah. I like that. That. There wasn't a lot to it, I grant you. It was very chintzy.
Yes. Yeah,
it wasn't as sleek as the DeLorean.
No. I tell you what, do you remember when they did the remake of it?
No, I don't think I do, actually.
Awful.
I think that's a given. Yeah.
I mean, not even close to being good.
Right.
I mean, beyond awful.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I can't even sort of explain how bad it was, because it was. Just remember going, I've heard about it. So as a kid, I'd watched the original.
Yes.
And then someone said, they're doing a remake of it. And it was, I've just looked it up. It was 2002. Because someone said to me, and here's a really obscure reference because She was only a hit very briefly. But do you remember a singer called Samantha Mumba?
No, I don't.
She was she was of that sort of time, late 90s, early 2000s. And you think, okay, yep, she was a singer, pop music. I'm all right, but I do remember her. I wouldn't describe myself as a fan or anything. But they cast her in it.
Right.
As Mara.
Right.
And I goes, well, what? Who's thinking this is a good idea?
Yes.
And oh my goodness me, no,
No
dreadful,
good. Yeah,
no, awful.
I can imagine that it would be. Yeah.
It was. It didn't need to be touched.
No, it didn't. There is no. No. If you there's so much scope if you want to make a time travel story. You don't need to rework the original. That's very silly. Yes.
Yes. No. There you go. So yeah, my top tip there: don't watch that.
Avoid.
Avoid. Yes. Save those many minutes of your life by not watching that.
Just watch the original again if you must.
Yes. There you go.
But yes, it wasn't the most imaginative piece of equipment. It was a chair, a spinny thing, some dials, and a couple of levers, I seem to remember.
Oh yeah, a couple of coloured bulbs on the top there.
That's right, some coloured bulbs, and I think it was on casters, so he could sort of move it around, but it was very heavy, so he couldn't get it very far. I seem to remember in one scene he has to drag it out of a cave.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a brilliant design because you don't know where you're going to end up when you travel through time.
It does make sense if you're going to build a time machine to make it mobile.
Yes.
In some form or another.
Yes.
Because you could, as you say, you could appear anywhere. But they also didn't observe the fact that traveling in time and traveling in space are two different things. Because didn't he end up in ancient Rome at one point, and then he was back in Victorian London? And said, well, how do you get from traveling in time is not the same as traveling in space?
Yeah, you're just going to be in rural England at that point.
Well, he's going to be in the home counties where he started, isn't he? Because he was a bit posh, so he was not letting any cats out of the bag there. So but all of a sudden he's on the other side of the planet. Well, how has that happened? He's not set a location on his little clocks there. He's just set a time. So unless it's going to random locations, and that's going to be really inconvenient.
Yes.
What if all of a sudden he's in Arctic in the Middle Ages? I mean, he's only got that little jacket on.
He's going to be chilly, isn't he? He's not.
It's not going to work.
No, there's no luggage area on it. He's not thought it through.
No, he hasn't. It's a very poor design.
No, clumsy.
Clumsy. At least with the DeLorean, you can shut the door, keep warm, put the heater on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming Doc Brown had compromised the boot space on that somewhat. So yeah, it's passenger seat only.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. But he's got a nuclear reactor strapped to the back. It's going to be warm.
Oh, this is true. Yeah, if he gets all a bit chilly, you can just lob a match in there. You'll be all right.
It'd be fine. Absolutely.
That's good.
Dear.
Yeah, I like
anyway, we have gone places I never thought we'd go.
Well, it's true, but it's all sci-fi themed, so that's
it is all sci-fi themed. Anyway, your turn. Give us a bit.
It's me up next, right?
I think so. Because I think I may have done two in a row there.
No, I don't think you. Well, we ended up at the time machine for some reason. I can't really remember why. But no, you followed Event Horizon with the Discovery. So
with the Discovery and a little bit of the Leonov as well. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We'll count that as one.
Okay.
My next one is from one of my absolute favourite film series. So, to the point where Kaylee used to like the films.
Oh, you've ruined it for her, have you?
She's like, don't put that on. Don't put that on. Don't put any of them on. Walk away from the remote.
Oh, dear.
And it is the USCSS Nostromo.
Ooh.
From Alien.
There's a discerning choice.
Yeah,
okay.
A very... I mean, it's not the most advanced ship, really, considering where it was in the sort of time that it existed. It was a star freighter, nothing particularly.
Yeah, it was a bit grubby, wasn't it? Yeah.
Just a bit of a shit, really.
Yeah.
But it's a bit dear to our heart because you think, well, this was probably thinking 79 when Alien came out.
79 is correct, yes.
And you think, well, at the time, you think, bloody hell, this is futuristic.
It's not.
And it's not. When you look back at it now and they're working off tiny little CRT screens and things like that. But to this day, you can still watch that film and you can't ever accuse it of having shit effects.
Oh, no, I don't think you could level that at it. No.
And never. It still holds up to this day.
Yeah,
yes, some of the tech in it on the ship is it does let it down.
They didn't see where the tech was going, but nobody did.
No, not at all.
No,
because you could say the same for like Next Generation, for instance.
Yeah, you could. That's very 80s tech.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they sort of got the iPad.
Yes, they were all a bit touchy-feely, weren't they?
Yes, they saw that coming. That was quite good. The sort of personal handheld tablet. They got that early on. But yes, I agree with Alien. You don't. Yes, if you really analyze it, it is quite dated. But you don't look at it. You don't think of it when you're watching it.
Not at all. I mean, that whole concept of mother in the ship.
Yes,
I loved that. That was absolutely brilliant. And the idea of the synthetics,
yes,
being identical to humans, you couldn't tell them apart. That was brilliant, and
that was quite an idea ahead of its time.
And just what a thing!
You could tell when they fell apart.
But, they're a bit milky inside.
Yeah, bit. Yeah, that's right. It looked a bit like a squashed ice cream. Yeah, that's right.
That was quite an interesting way of doing it because they handled that quite well, I think, didn't they? That was
when his head came off, it did look a bit like when I try and make pasta. But it's
that's
spaghetti everywhere.
Yeah, that's enough to put you off your dinner, isn't it?
Yeah, it usually does. Yeah,
but it was dear. Like I said, everything in the Alien series, I just love. I think it was really well done.
I don't have that much passion for it, but I do respect what it is and what it did. Yeah,
I get really rather excited about it, and particularly when they revisited it in later years and did Prometheus.
Yeah,
because I'm not a religious man, you know that.
No, rightly so.
But what they did in that film was sort of question religion and spirituality, as well as tying it in with all of this science fiction stuff as well. It was so well done while maintaining this whole alien carnage, all that. I mean, I almost said beautiful, but it is beautifully done what Geiger did with the design of Alien and
it's proper scary stuff, isn't it? Yeah,
it is creepy, and the ships, the way that just every bit of structure is beautifully drawn and laid out. It's sinister and scary, but so elegantly done.
Coming back to the ship. A lot of it is shot in shadow, isn't it? It's a lot. It's lots of dark colors, and I think that works very well for it. It just gives the whole thing a kind of sinister feel to it. Yeah, yeah, that always works well.
Yes, and there's always that wonderful overtone as well of going, well, this corporation, the company, as they always call it, is the most important thing, and the crew are always expendable.
Yeah,
and
it's got a very industrial feel to it, hasn't it?
That's it. But that's quite interesting as well, because you've got the Nostromo, that quite industrial ship, like you say. It's grotty, it's dirty.
Yeah,
compared to the completely organic alien and its ship that they've discovered on LV-426. And it's just, oh dear, gets it. I could go on.
You
I'm
could,
gonna
I'm sure.
in.
Yeah, you're gonna. Yes, let's not spend the rest of the podcast on this. But that's a good choice, though, from in terms of a ship design, which is what we're talk about. It, yeah, I think it ticks a lot of boxes, like you say.
That's it. It's a bit grubby, a bit crappy. And is a nice little note for the technical aspects. It had. This was, I can't remember where I read it. It was just one of those sort of things where they release specs of it, even though it's a completely and utterly fictional thing.
Yeah.
Its original engines were replaced with Rolls-Royce Cyclone thrust engines.
Oh,
so it's nice to see that. In what was it? The ship was made in the 2100s, I believe.
Okay, but Rolls-Royce is still going.
Still going, yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, that's nice to know. So,
but they're still making the Phantom as well.
Bound to, yeah.
Yeah,
that'll probably be about the size of the Nostromo.
Yeah, probably by then. Yeah. As will the Umbrellas. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, good God! Yeah, you could bring down an alien with one of those, I reckon.
Yeah. That's why they're not worried. No, we just need to find the Umbrellas. We'll be all right.
Oh, you think that entire saga could have been averted if someone had just had a look in the door to see if there was an umbrella that would release to aid the program?
Yeah, but they bought it used and somebody had pinched them, because that's what always happens. You never get the Umbrellas when you buy a used one.
No, that's it. By the time you get a used one, it'll be a gangster owning it, so it'll be a baseball bat down there instead.
It will. It's just not the same, is it? You're never gonna do it with that. No, you need an umbrella with the pointy end.
Yes, it's true. Yeah.
Everyone will run in fear of the Rolls-Royce logo. Yes.
Oh, very
well, there
good.
we go. We've developed a whole area of it that they missed.
Yeah, that's it. We could have wrapped it up. Ripley could have gone home, and all would have been well.
All would have been fine. Yeah. Gone home in a really comfortable chair.
Yeah, nice. A little Kit gone home to her daughter rather than missing her entire lifetime. Yeah, so that's fine. See,
fix that for them, haven't we?
Yeah.
Now, if we're talking about, I'm going to take it to a different place entirely now.
Okay.
I could go two ways here, but I think I'm going to go the silly way.
Oh, good.
We're going for a ship that was supposed to be very industrial and functional, all about its purpose for the company that owns it, grotty and dirty and a bit broken and all that stuff. We have to mention,
I know where this is going,
Red Dwarf.
There we go. Very good. Yes, we do.
With its wobbly walls and its ill-fitting doors and its windows that bizarrely look like they'd open. It's
not
all there.
Honest.
And the hollyhock drive that wasn't a Kellogg's cornflake box at all.
No.
And it's all there. It's all there. Again, not badly thought out in its way.
No.
Because they did have to build models of it. It wasn't supposed to be red. I have been told.
That is information for me. That's
no,
new.
It wasn't supposed to be red. When they Rob Grant and Doug Naylor sort of sketched out what they thought the ship would be, and they gave it to the model department because of pre-CGI back in whenever they did 85, the first series, which in itself is a scary thing because I remember seeing it when it first came on. But they had no idea it would be red. But when they gave it to the model department, and they spent a few weeks building this thing, and then they said, "Oh, come down and see it because it's ready." And they saw it and said, "But it's red." I said, "Well, yeah, you called it Red Dwarf." Yeah, but that's not. No, it wasn't. But it was built by then and painted and ready to go. So
the trouble is, that's it. It's
there. It is.
It's what it says, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's red. But they had no idea in their mind that it was going to be actually red. And I think it's the only spacecraft I can think of that is red, because they're always white or grey or
Yeah.
black.
No,
I
nothing
can't think
leaps
of
to
another
mind.
red spacecraft.
No, I'll put that in the back of my head. If anything leaps to mind, I'll shout.
Yeah. And then they decided in the title sequence to have Lister outside, rollering it,
Yes, this is true.
because he's got a bit of a scuff on, and he wants to,
But
just
that's
sort that out.
because you remember those first couple of series. The intro was quite
Long.
sci-fi, wasn't it? It didn't
It was,
have the
yes,
it didn't have the
slow
big
music.
fanfare.
No,
No,
not
but
at all.
it wasn't till series 3 where the theme tune was in the intro.
Yeah, well, and there was a lot more of the characters and sort of cutting into scenes and things like that, wasn't there? But the early one, it was a slow fly past of the ship, slow music. It was just panoramic shots of the Red Dwarf itself.
Yeah, because that was
it was quite
well.
well done.
It was what's his chops, wasn't it? Howard Goodall.
It was.
He's a safe pair of hands for a bit of TV music.
What are you doing with that? Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, but again, and it was partly a function of the fact they didn't have any money to spend, particularly. But again, they wanted it to feel quite industrial and a bit grotty and, a bit dirty and a bit run down. And it was kind of all done on the cheap. And it was all a bit crap. And the computer was, on the blink. And yeah, mind you, he had been on his own for 3 million years. So
gone a bit doolally.
Between you and me, I think I might have gone a bit peculiar.
No, it was those first couple of series. Yes, you can tell the budget was non-existent.
Oh, we had the wobbly walls and everything. Yeah, and it was so not studio floor.
No,
in any way, and that grey cement sealed paint that every studio had on the floor.
Oh dear! Well, mind you, kind enough on the Red Dwarf sets, they painted the walls with that, didn't they?
It was all good. Yeah, that's right. It's just I think I saw an interview with Rob Grant where he said on the 4th season they had to say to the props department, "Can we please have something that isn't just grey with a little bit of colour somewhere?"
That's it. Because you remember when when Crichton came in properly. And
season 3,
yeah. But when
Robert
the living quarters was a dramatic improvement.
Yeah, they upgraded it, didn't they? It was it felt more Star Trek then.
Yeah. Yes, because you remember particularly the xenomorph episode, because it starts off while Lister's cooking up food in there, and it's all well pointed, and there's colours and
there's some there's padded corners. I think it even had a shower in the corner, didn't it? It was all a lot more more friendly, a lot more livable. Yeah. Beige instead of grey.
That's it. Yes,
pale beige instead of a battleship grey. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it got better over the years, and then of course eventually they lose the ship altogether. And they're just stuck on Starbug, which is a wonderful craft in itself.
Yes, back to the boring grey inside.
Back to the boring grey inside, but again, like the Eagles in Space 1999, they crash the damn thing every week, but somehow they manage to fix it.
Yes,
the whole back end of it must be just full of parts. But all very silly, but still valid craft.
Yes, both the Red Dwarf and Starbug, because
yeah,
and
of course they did make a Starbug, didn't they, out of a little smart car for one of the later episodes.
Oh, the Back to Earth episodes, didn't they?
Yeah, car bug.
That was it.
Yes. And it was a smart car with the seats taken out, so they could get all 4 of them in it.
That was it, because it was it was a hark back to an earlier episode, wasn't it? The Despair Squid, was it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
That's why they ended up back on Earth, wasn't it?
Yeah, because they weren't really. It was supposed to be, some sort of hallucination or something. I can't remember now. But yes, they did actually make a Starbug out of a real car. Yeah.
Yes, and went to Coronation Street.
And went to Coronation.
That's
It's working.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's fine. Absolutely fine.
Well, it beat the Mazda 6 he normally drove in that. So, yeah, there you go.
Ugh.
Yes.
Boring.
Indeed. Dull.
I mean, you say boring, but when did you last see a Mazda 6?
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you don't actually, do you? Now you've mentioned that.
No.
Or are they in fact like Toyota Avensis and they're actually everywhere, but you just don't notice them?
Oh, you don't notice? Oh, well, that's a strong theory. I bet
Nissan
actually.
Almera is another one that does that.
Oh yeah,
They're everywhere. You just don't notice them.
Yeah, dreadful. I tell you what, you won't see, and that's the Mazda 6 MPS. Now
You
that
won't.
not many people will have bought that.
No, not many people. No, I think that's quite a rare car. I agree. Yes, maybe not for the right reasons, actually, but yes, I agree. I think that you don't. No, you don't.
A good car by all accounts.
Yes, very much so. But I don't think anyone bought one.
No, I've never been near one.
Because I think everyone went off and bought a Mondeo instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you would. And again, that's another rare car now. Not allowed those.
Getting there. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes. Well.
Anyway.
Right.
Who's next?
I got one next.
Okay.
Maybe we head back to the Alien universe, please.
Oh, God. I can see what Kaylee's got a problem with now. Yes.
Now, this is a very obscure... Well, I say very obscure. This is... It's a bit different in terms of a mode of transport. But do you remember in Aliens where Ripley goes back to LV 426 with the Marines, and on the ship she asks if she can be useful?
Right.
And
it that's not a question to ask with a group of Marines, is it?
No, it's not that sort of useful. It's not a free fall.
It would have been a very different movie.
Oh God, there's bound to be a version of that somewhere.
Oh, there will. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. You're not the first person to think of that.
No, I won't have been. No, I may even be the last. I don't know.
Oh God. And it's the caterpillar loader.
Oh.
Which also features at the end of the film because she gets into it to fight off the alien.
If I may, she does. If I may just fill that out a little bit for you, the Caterpillar P5000 power loader.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, they sold in big numbers, I heard.
Oh, massive. Yeah.
Oh, and well, obviously, because you got Caterpillar logo on it, because we'll pay anything to
replacement. Yes, absolutely. They'll have paid a pretty penny to have that on there. Yes,
that's right. But while she's also climbing aboard it for the first time, you'll notice that she has futuristic Reebok shoes on.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Absolutely. Well, if Nike did it with Back to the Future Part 2, didn't they? So
they did. So yeah, you might as well steam
power laces.
Well, it was very much the brand of the time, so it was been
very
done for them not to be.
Yes,
Mr. Jordan had made shoes go colossal, so they jumped on the
shown the way, hadn't he?
Yes. We'll have a bit of that. But yes, very cool bit of kit that I thought.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. Actually, I wouldn't have thought of that, but interesting choice.
I mean, sort of a exoskeleton type thing, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I did say, a conveyance of any sort, and I think that qualifies. Yeah.
That's it. And it was used, well, yes, to load things, but also in battle, and bloody marvelous.
Yeah. Saved the day, didn't it? Really, to be honest,
it did. I'm not going to gush over it. I'm not going to go off on.
Already have.
Well, I did a little bit, but it's fine. But it's right. Gonna rein me in. We're not going to get into it. It's just that's the one from my list. So it's fine.
Tell you what. I'll stick with the industrial theme here.
Yes, please.
Here we go. And there's some geeky facts coming up here, so prepare yourself.
I'm strapped in.
Are you familiar with the movie Silent Running?
Yes, but not for a very long time.
Wonderful film. Directed by Douglas Trumbull, who did the special effects for 2001.
Mm-hmm.
So knew what he
Safe
was
pair of
about.
hands. Yep.
Oh yeah. And the ship in that is called the Valley Forge, and it is one of a fleet of ships transporting plant and animal life from a completely decimated, barren Earth to another planet
Mhm.
to recolonize and prepare.
Yep.
And Bruce Dern, who's in the star of the film, who is in charge of one of these ships, is a bit of a loner, shall we say, and is very much all about the plants and not about the company that is operating these ships. But again, not wishing to just completely reiterate the plot of the film, but the ships themselves very, very industrial, very very businesslike, a bit grotty. It's basically some scaffolding with these enormous domes strapped to it.
That was it, because it had all of the kind of plant life and such like in these domes,
in
didn't
the
it? As I
domes
recall,
with lights and irrigation systems and everything to keep it all going. So they had these gardens effectively
that's right.
inside these domes. Yes, it was a very interesting, unusual design. And it had cargo pods underneath it and things like that with fertilizer and seeds and all the stuff they'd need to maintain these gardens. And the staff or the crew on the ships were there primarily to operate the ship and to tend to these gardens. And they had these little robots that would go about and water the plants and all that kind of stuff. So but what's interesting, the ship interior had a very kind of industrial feel to it, almost kind of nautical, felt a little bit submariney, a bit kind of military shippy, if you like. Well, there was a reason for that, because all the interiors were shot on board the USS Enterprise aircraft carrier.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, isn't that a lovely little detail?
That'll be why it looks very familiar then.
That'll be why it looks very familiar. So the Valley Forge is actually the Enterprise.
Not that one.
Not that one. Exactly. But not the real one.
Mind you, you say that the prototype space shuttle was Enterprise, wasn't it?
It was the 1977. The number one was called Enterprise. Yes, that's true. The one that never actually went to space. I think I'm right in saying
that's correct.
It flew, but it didn't leave atmosphere.
Yeah. That was it. Yeah, because all of the Star Trek fans kicked off and go, well, there's only one name for it. Sort it out.
Yeah. And they had a number of the stars at the launch, I believe.
They did. Yeah.
DeForest Kelley, Leonard Nimoy, Nichelle Nichols.
Yeah.
Two of them, I think. Not William Shatner, but a number of the others.
I'm very disappointed in the Shat.
I don't think the others wanted to be anywhere near him. And I think Gene Roddenberry was there himself as well at the launch.
Which is interesting that Shatner didn't turn up, because I'm sure...
Oh, they've been filming T.J. Hooker or Columbo or something like that.
Oh, something daft like that. But I'm sure since then, I've heard him narrate a space shuttle documentary.
Yeah, well, he does kind of what he does these days, isn't it? He narrates documentaries. Occasionally, he does one that's not about himself. No, I do him a disservice. He's a lovely man. But so that would be my next pick, with the Valley Forge from Silent Running, which it's quite a sad film, actually. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I won't spoil it for those that haven't seen it, but it's worth checking out. It's a kind of classic British sci-fi movie that didn't get the publicity that 2001 got, although it's got a lot of the same crew on it. It's kind of made by the same special effects people. I think Douglas Trumbull by that time had started his own special effects company, and Silent Running was a little bit of a showcase for what they could do. But it is nevertheless really well acted and has a really strong story.
Yeah, it's very good. It's like I said, it's not something I've watched for a very long time, but definitely worth a watch.
Worth a watch, worth revisiting. Yeah,
and it's that noticeable theme, isn't there, in ship design with the long central core of scaffolding.
Yeah, if you look at that, you look at the Discovery from 2001, you look at the Eagle from Space 1999. They all
Mm.
have a few things in common. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a theme, isn't there?
There is a theme, and they're all very functional and very the function you can see. You can see the function in the design, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
You can see the purpose. Everything has a purpose and a reason why it's there and the way that it is. It's all explainable, even though it's all just made up. You think, actually, yeah, that could work. That makes sense that you would make it like that. And I think the Valley Forge is a lot like that. But yeah, when you watch it again, once you know that it was shot on the interior of an aircraft carrier, you can say, "Oh yeah, I can see it now."
I will go back and have a rewatch of that.
All the doors with the spinny wheels on that would make no sense in space, but of course you'd have it on a ship.
Yes.
And I know those spinny wheels probably have a proper name, but I don't know what it is. So we're just going to call it the spinny wheel.
Yeah, the spin that sums it up beautifully, I think.
Yes, everyone knows that.
Oh, it's good. Right.
Have you got any more?
I've got a final one on my list.
Okay.
And this one, we could almost bring it back to Cars.
Yeah, interesting.
Almost. I mean, it will operate on the ground as a car, but it was the police car from Blade Runner, the Spinner.
Oh yeah.
Which it does drive on the ground, but it also does fly. Obviously, it's sci-fi after all.
Oh, it's true.
It's one of my favourites anyway. In film territory and book territory as well. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Do androids dream of electric sheep? It's well, the whole setting of that film is just it's just so nicely done. It's grotty.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. Which you kind of think it would be.
And
based on the world they've designed there. Yeah.
And it looks the part. It fits so well with that eerie, crappy dystopia that they're living in, and it's become part of pop culture as well, I think, because there's it crops up in Back to the Future Part 2.
Oh yes, I've come across this. Yeah,
because there's a horrifically painted one on a driveway.
Yes, I've read this. Yeah,
and it comes up in some of the the really atrocious Star Wars films from the late 90s, early 2000s. Some of the vehicles in that were a bit of a homage to it. And I mean, you can and in recent years as well, like the Cyberpunk 2077 game from last year. Again, a very, very similar sort of tone in terms of setting, but some of the vehicles in that you could trace back to this, and a lot of people have made that link because of the way that game's set out. It's very similar to a Blade Runner setting.
Yeah,
it's just one of those things that have become part of bit of film culture now. And
yeah, absolutely. Well, anything in Blade Runner has, hasn't it?
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think of it at the time when it hit originally. You think, well, everyone loved the style of it. Everyone loved the plot, the story, the music. The Vangelis, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And to this day, you think, yeah, maybe at certain points in history, you think, well, actually, that does sound a bit crap. But now I think it's quite of its time, isn't it?
I think so.
You could quite easily put that on as just an atmospheric soundtrack.
Yes, you could. It's just a nice piece of music, even if you knew nothing about the film. The music stands up on its own, which is a little bit unusual for movie soundtracks. A lot of them don't. A lot of them, when you listen to the soundtrack, it sort of feels like something is missing.
Yeah, if you've not got the visual accompaniment, it's like
Yeah.
it sounds a bit arse on its own, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, but that doesn't.
No,
It's
that
one of the
doesn't.
few that doesn't. It holds up on its own. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, another one that actually holds up on its own. Car film as well. Drive.
Oh, yeah. No
Mm.
question. Yes, that is a brilliant soundtrack. Oh, we have covered that, I think,
We
before.
have, I think, yeah, that's definitely come up. But yeah, that's.
I listened to that one. There's good driving songs on that.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's
Oh yeah.
easy to get.
You can be a badass weirdo in Los Angeles when you're listening to that.
Oh yeah, you can get a wriggle on if you put that on the
Or you can
stereo.
be a badass weirdo in North Devon if you feel the need.
Yep, you just need the Wurzels for that.
But you who are
Yeah, exactly that.
exactly that. Yes. Oh God. Yes. Can I move it on?
But you may.
I've got two left.
Oh, please do.
One of which is an actual car. So again, that's moving nicely on from your Blade Runner there.
Ah, very good. Go on then. Let's have an actual car.
We're back to Star Trek.
Right, yeah.
And we are in Star Trek Nemesis, and we have the Argo ground vehicle.
Oh, that's the
It's
sort
the
of ATV type thing, isn't it?
That's right. It's the off-road buggy that Picard and Data and Worf take down to a planet and bomb it around a bit. And,
They did. What always struck me about that, because when they were bombing around the planet, you've got Picard and Data in the front there, and you just feel Worf's just been left just a little exposed at the back there.
A little exposed and facing the wrong way, so he's going to vom as well.
There's going to be a hint of vomit there.
Yeah, that's right. I've never understood the human predilection for piloting vehicles at unsafe speeds.
It's that weird thing of bloody when you get on a train, and it's like, why have you put a seat facing the other way?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Just no need.
I mean, the only reason for it in the case of this vehicle is because it suited what happened to them. But you would never have designed it like that. I mean, you wouldn't have designed it as a 3-seater anyway. It would have been a 4-seater, wouldn't it?
Yes.
2 or 4, not 3.
No, it's
weird. But nevertheless, it is a car in Star Trek, so I'm going to have it in the list.
It's worth a note. Yep, that's good. I like that.
There aren't many cars in Star Trek.
So. No, this is true. No, I think we'd have to go back to sort of holodecks and cars from the 40s.
Yeah, there's the odd one in Dixon Hill. Yeah, but they don't go hooning around in them as much as you wish they might. But in the Argo, they do. They do get a bit of a hoon on.
They do. Yep.
Yep.
This is true. That is a valid reference. That is a car reference from Star Trek.
Reference. It's possibly one of the strongest references on our list.
This is true. Yeah.
So there's that. And I think the last one's kind of an honourable mention, really.
Okay.
It's a spacecraft, but again, very well thought out one. We're coming right up to date now.
Okay.
And it's the Starship Avalon from the movie Passengers.
Okay.
Which is one of our favourite movies. We think it's brilliant. Bit cheesy, I grant you, but it's a really strong movie. And the spacecraft, again, I think is really well thought out. The software is quite well done in it. I just like it. And the fact that they built a tree in it, it's just cool.
Well, I'm going to have to take your word for that.
Grow a tree. You don't build trees, you grow trees.
Oh, no, this is true. It's not Minecraft.
No.
No, that's fine. No, I'm going to have to go on your knowledge. I've not seen Passengers.
Oh, I'd check it out. It's good.
Okay, that's fine. That's bound to be on and streaming service somewhere.
Oh, it's not that old. It's quite a new film, so you won't have a problem finding it. As ever, the ship goes a bit wrong, and they have to fix it. I don't think I'm spoiling the story by saying that.
And they build a tree by all accounts.
And they do build a tree. And watch out for a lovely cameo from Michael Sheen, who is inexplicably playing the barman from The Shining. No idea why, but he is.
Well, that's a bit. I wasn't expecting you to say that.
No, it's very strange. But there it is. And we haven't even mentioned the snowcat thing that's in The Shining. But only just thought of that.
Well, that's true. Mind you, he does. If you want to go full vehicle in that, he does drive a VW Beetle, doesn't he?
He does drive a VW Beetle. That's true. A yellow one, all the way up there. Yeah, it's true. We never see it again, though. So
no. Well, he parked it where it got all wintry. It will have disintegrated.
True. They were there through the winter, weren't they? It would have fallen to bits. Yeah,
all
that's
gone.
a good point.
Yeah, that would have vaporized that.
Just dissolved as the winter went on. Yes, that's true.
No, snowcat's your best bet.
I think so. Yeah, as long as you haven't got a chest and an axe sticking out your chest, then that'll. You won't be able to get in the door. You see.
No, that really does slow you down.
Puts a crimp on your evening. That does. Yeah. Well, I think that's probably enough of that for this week. Check us out on all the various social medias and things. Thank you very much for listening.